Welcome back. If you're new here, this is a place for the strange, the unexplained, and the unsolved. Stories of people who vanished, crimes the world never closed, mysteries that have outlived everyone who tried to solve them. These stories are dark, but the way we tell them is calm. Dim the lights, settle in. Close your eyes if you want to. Before we begin, if you find these stories help you drift off, do me one small favor while you're still awake. Tap the like button. Subscribe to the channel. It tells the quiet algorithms that this kind of storytelling matters, and it helps more sleepless people find their way here. Now, tonight's story. It was raining the night he disappeared. Not a soft rain, the kind of cold November rain that turns the Pacific Northwest into something out of a dream. Dark trees, dark hills, low clouds pressing down on the world. At 8:13 in the evening, on the day before Thanksgiving, 1971, somewhere in the black sky over the forests of southwest Washington state, a man in a dark suit and tie walked to the back of a passenger jet. He was carrying a parachute and $200,000 in cash. He opened the rear stairway of the aircraft. He stepped out into the rain, and he was never seen again. The FBI would search for him for 45 years. They would interview more than 1,000 suspects. They would dredge rivers, comb forests, exhumed bodies, follow leads on 3 continents. They would build the longest unsolved hijacking case file in American history. And in the end, in 2016, they would quietly close the case. Unsolved. His name wasn't D.B. Cooper. That was a reporter's mistake, printed in a hurry, and it stuck. The name on his ticket was Dan Cooper. We don't know if that was his real name either. Tonight, we go back to the rain. Back to a Boeing 727 climbing into a storm. Back to the strangest crime in the history of American aviation. This is the story of the man who jumped into the night. Portland International Airport, Wednesday afternoon, November 24th, 1971. The day before Thanksgiving is one of the busiest travel days of the year in America, then as now. The terminal was crowded. Families heading home, soldiers on leave, businessmen catching the last flight of the day before the holiday. Among them, one man stood out. Or rather, he didn't. He was in his mid-40s, perhaps, maybe a little older. He wore a black raincoat over a dark business suit, a white shirt, a black necktie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, black loafers. He carried a black attaché case. He was olive-skinned. Some witnesses would later say he looked Mediterranean, others Latin American. He had thin lips, a high forehead, dark eyes behind dark sunglasses, even indoors. He approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He paid $20 in cash for a one-way ticket on Flight 305, a short hop, Portland to Seattle. 30 minutes in the air. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. No one asked for identification. In 1971, no one ever did. Flight 305 was a Boeing 727, a graceful aircraft, 3 engines mounted at the tail, and one unusual feature: a stairway built into the rear underside of the fuselage. A set of stairs that could be lowered in flight, designed originally for emergency exits in jungle airfields with no jet bridges. A feature that, on this night, would matter very much. Dan Cooper boarded the plane at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He took seat 18C, aisle seat, last row in the rear cabin. He sat down. He lit a cigarette. In 1971, you could still smoke on airplanes. He ordered a bourbon and soda from the flight attendant. A young woman named Florence Schaffner. He paid her with a 20. She got him his change. He was, By every account, polite, quiet, unremarkable. The plane took off into a grey sky. 36 other passengers on board, a crew of 6. A routine evening flight. Somewhere over the rolling forests south of Seattle, Dan Cooper reached up and rang the call button. Florence Schaffner came down the aisle. He gestured for her to lean in close. He pressed a folded envelope into her hand. She smiled. She thought it was his phone number. It happened sometimes, lonely businessmen on short flights. She tucked the envelope into her pocket, unread, and began to walk away. He spoke to her then, quietly, so no one else could hear. "Miss," he said, "you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." She opened the envelope. The handwriting was neat, block printed in fountain pen. She would later take the note back from her. The note has never been found, but she would remember the meaning. He had a bomb in his briefcase. He wanted $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, a fuel truck waiting in Seattle, and no one was to be hurt. He opened the attaché case on his lap. 8 red cylinders, a coil of copper wire, a large battery. She had no doubt, in that moment, that what she was looking at was real. The airline agreed to everything. When the plane landed in Seattle, the money was delivered. The parachutes were delivered. The passengers walked off into the terminal. What remained on board was the captain, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, 1 flight attendant, and the man with the briefcase. Cooper gave his next instructions. The plane was to take off again, south, low and slow. The rear stairway, built into the underside of the tail, was to be lowered while the plane was still in the air. At 7:40 that evening, Flight 305 lifted off from Seattle for the second time, heading south, into the storm. 2 minutes after takeoff, a warning light came on in the cockpit. The rear stairway had been activated. A moment later, the crew felt a small pressure change. The plane pitched up, then settled. The captain looked at the co-pilot. Neither of them said anything. They flew on, through the rain, toward Reno. When the plane landed 3 hours later, the FBI boarded with weapons drawn. The cabin was empty. Dan Cooper was gone. 2 of the 4 parachutes were gone. The money was gone. The rear stairway was still extended, trailing behind the plane like an open door into the night. He had stepped off the back of a Boeing 727 at 200 miles per hour into a freezing rainstorm with 21 pounds of cash strapped to his body. And he had vanished. The FBI searched for him for 45 years. They interviewed more than 1,000 suspects. They built the longest unsolved hijacking case file in American history. In 2016, they quietly closed the case. Unsolved. But the story doesn't end there. 9 years after the jump, a small boy on a picnic by the Columbia River would brush his hand against something buried in the sand, something that should have broken the case wide open, and instead would only make the mystery deeper. That story is for another night. If you'd like to hear what the boy found by the river, subscribe to the channel. New stories of the unsolved every week. For tonight, we leave Dan Cooper where the world left him, stepping out of an airplane, into a freezing rain, into a forest that has kept his secret for more than 50 years. Sleep well.